Want to know the secret tech that's revolutionized my fitness at 40 plus, and let's be honest, almost 50? Well, stick around. I'm sharing my entire health stack, including one tool that'll totally blow your mind. If you don't know who I am, I'm Adrian. I'm 49 years old, 49 and a half really, and I've got a long history of inconsistent fitness efforts. Like most of you really, I never saw the desired results I wanted, even if I was going to the gym 3 to 5 days a week. I used personal trainers, spent thousands of dollars on them. Even when my discipline wasn't lacking, I still didn't see the results I wanted. So I decided to get serious about things about 3 years ago, and I discovered the power of technology in optimizing my efforts. And after that, I've experienced a remarkable transformation. So today I'm going to share the daily tech tools for health management that I use, and some of them might be familiar, but one is a total game changer, and I'll reveal how it transformed my workouts and my progress tracking. As we all know, health becomes more crucial with age, and technology makes health management easier than ever. So here's a breakdown of my favorite tools and their uses, including that mind-blowing reveal at the end that's completely changed things for me. So first up is blood lab result tracking. And if you don't know what blood lab results are, well, I do them every couple months. You go in, you get your shot, and they give you the results. Is something I use for blood lab result tracking, a tool called Ornament. It lets me track all my blood lab results right in a simple app, and it shows all the markers longitudinally. So for instance, a couple years ago, I noticed my triglycerides going up, and I started doing a bunch of cardio, and they went down. There's a very simple example of how I can see something in the app, over time getting worse and worse, and I can take a corrective action. And so obviously it tracks, liver, kidney, all the blood markers you want it to track, basically everything you're being tested for on any given basis. I get blood tests done every couple months, and then this lets me spot those trends and improvements, and I can use these results to sort of have a head start when I'm going in to talk to my doctor about something. So I might have a thesis on something I did differently a few months ago that might be showing up in my blood results now. So it really gives me a handle on something that a lot of people, it's just a black box for. It now lets you see sort of cause and effect, whether it's diet or exercise or supplements, whatever you're doing, you can now correlate them with results in your blood tests. And the app also gives you all sorts of built-in information as well. So if you've got an elevated marker for something or a suppressed marker for something, it's going to suggest right in the app potential reasons for that. So it's pretty invaluable in terms of just making something that's kind of a black box to most people a little more decipherable, basically. And I found it to be hugely positive in terms of getting a handle on what I'm doing with my fitness and supplementation to get my health in a great place. Tech stack tool number 2 is a workout tracking app. Obviously, everybody needs a good workout tracking app, and for me, that's Hevy. That is spelled Hevy. It's obviously on Android and iOS, and it, in addition to a whole bunch of features you'd expect in terms of simply tracking your workouts, it's also a fantastic little social network. Somehow I have like several hundred followers on Hevy now. I don't even know how, but it's, as anybody knows, like that type of positive feedback is great. So you get people commenting on your stuff, every little workout. You can comment on theirs, like, and all that kind of stuff. And it becomes a really nice little community of like reinforcing stuff. But over and above that, it obviously does a fantastic job at like tracking and graphing and giving you like a historical view of all your lifts, basically. So I could go in and make sure that I'm sort of progressively overloading things, whether that's by volume or by, like a particular PR on an exercise. Now, I just noticed the other day that it basically, if I do a PR on a particular exercise, it'll flag it right at the time as opposed to at the end of my workout, which is really gratifying to see that little PR notification pop up. It's a really beautifully designed app and has all sorts of fantastic features. And I think it's like about $30 a year, which is money well spent. And I think there's also now like a Hevy Pro, like a coach version as well. I haven't personally tried that, but if you are a fitness coach and you have clients, I know I've actually programmed others' routines within it, including for a couple of my sons. I've basically been able to just create programs and share it with them, and then they can essentially like duplicate it into their own Hevy app. So obviously the Pro version would be even better. So it's been a hugely awesome app for me. I've used a bunch of them. I used to use Progression on Android, and that was okay too, just way more minimalist. And I really do think the strength of this one is obviously in a lot of its stats and analytics features, its ability to show you like set count by muscle group. I just used that the other day when I was trying to figure out you know, what have I really over-indexed on? And surprise, surprise, shoulders is always up there. I need to learn to like give my shoulders a rest. But, you know, you can see like, you know, charted over time, you can see, okay, this is when I've picked up my cardio. This is when I've picked up my ab workouts. I've been overdoing it on arms. I need to, you know, work in some lower back, that kind of stuff. It's incredibly helpful. So that's that. That's tech app number 2. Also, no tech stack list would be complete without a nod towards sleep tracking. And for me, I use Fitbit via my Pixel watch. I used to use Aura, a magic ring there, but it had a subscription and I just really got tired of paying. I have way too many subscriptions in my life, so I just nixed that. The Fitbit tracking via the Pixel watch it's okay. I think at this point, I'm a little less sold on the accuracy of sleep tracking, having now been exposed to, you know, I trade sort of sleep tracking notes with a bunch of friends. Some use Aura, some use their Apple Watch. Obviously, I use Fitbit via that Pixel watch. You gotta be honest, it's pretty all over the place. It's not very consistent. For instance, my Fitbit sleep scores are usually like in the 70s no matter what I do. I could sleep for 5 hours, it would still be in the 70s. I could sleep for nearly 8 hours, it would still be in the 70s. So the actual score is pretty useless, but I do like tracking my sleep and wake times and just making sure that I'm staying relatively consistent with that. And I do love getting sort of a quarterly or, you know, every half a year breakdown of what my habits have been like. You know, I did find at some point that with my Aura ring that I was able to spot what looked like a some type of low level sickness that extended for about 6 or 8 weeks, which was interesting. I just couldn't attribute it to anything. And I couldn't really do much about it. I could sort of see that it was a thing and I knew I felt bad in that time period, but what do I do with that information? So I'm a little less sold on various sleep tracking apps in terms of the depth of data they can offer, but I do still use it as part of my tech stack just to keep an eye on my sleep and wake times, like I said. And it's also fun. It's a good, if you're surrounded by a bunch of fitness nerds like I am, it's a fun thing to discuss. So tech stack item number 4, I like to keep track of my body composition. So a good body composition analysis tool is something called Dexascan. So if you're not familiar with this, basically body composition at its like most rudimentary level is going to be body fat levels. And that's usually done with calipers. You've seen the calipers. And so the more advanced version of that is essentially an X-ray kind of scenario where you lay on a bed and this machine tracks over top of you for about 6 minutes. And it gives you a very detailed breakdown of everything from bone density to visceral fat distribution, to, you know, where your lean mass is carried. I can see that, you know, there's a small difference in my left and right arm or right and left leg, for instance. And all sorts of, you know, it'll also give you your caloric requirements specific to your exact amount of lean muscle mass. So if you're ever wondering, okay, you know, how many calories do I need to eat in a day in order to lose weight or gain weight at a specific rate, it'll tell you that exactly. So there are a lot of online tools that purport to tell you that, and they are really just guessing, whereas this will tell you exactly based on your body. And it will also give you, in addition to all those other things, of course, the body fat measurement. And I did one just recently and I was 15.7%, and I can show you a picture of what that looked like on me. But I was 15.7% on that, and I was like 18 and a bit percentage on my home scale, and I was 5% on the Evolt in the gym, which I'll cover that up in a second. But body fat is, as a percentage, is only slightly better than BMI. BMI is completely useless for bodybuilders. It's not worth it ever looking at. And body fat varies so dramatically from technique to technique that it's really only good in a directional sense. I still find it kind of fun to you can go on Reddit and ask strangers to rate your, to guess what body fat level you are. That is almost more accurate than anything, because it's the general populace's understanding of what a certain body fat level looks like. And when you really see how these body fat measurements are distributed so widely across different tools, it doesn't necessarily matter except as a directional indicator if you're trying to probably cut fat. most likely. Most people, when they're trying to gain weight, are not trying to gain fat. In any case, that is a tool I use, and I've used it now since, I guess, 2017, and it's been fantastic in that time frame to see, for instance, I'm able to see that my bone density has consistently gone up, and so I'm also able to see how much lean muscle mass I've put on, and I'm able to correlate that with certain things I'm doing in my life in terms of training. It's a really great tool to provide you an absolutely objective, scientific measure of how well you're progressing. Like I said, the body fat, it's a little bit different from machine to machine, but all the other things in terms of bone density and lean muscle mass, visceral fat distribution, especially important, so that you can see, like guys obviously carry a lot of visceral fat down around their belly. That's not a great thing. So you can kind of target that, if you will. Not that you can target fat loss, but you know what I mean? You can set that as a goal to reduce that. So that's been an amazing tool. Now, on a more daily basis, the weight tracking tool I use is my Withings Smart Scale. It is a bit of a misnomer calling it a smart scale because all of its smart features, aside from maybe being able to connect via Wi-Fi, are not terribly smart, but any scale that can connect to your Wi-Fi and sync with an app and will track your weight over time is a fantastic tool. I weigh myself usually at least once a week, and when I'm cutting, I'll weigh myself daily because your weight will fluctuate quite a bit. Even if you're weighing yourself at the same time every morning, it's going to vary quite wildly depending on what you ate the day before and when you ate it, how much water retention you're currently, holding or whatever. But if you collect that data on a daily basis, let's say you're in the middle of a cut and you're aiming to lose only 1 or 2 pounds a week, what I find is if I weigh myself every week, there's a very strong probability that on one particular week from Monday to Monday, that Monday I'm weighing myself, it could show me as having gone up because of just something I did, let's say Sunday night. And that might discourage me a lot. And it's so much so that I, maybe eat a couple cheat things I shouldn't eat because I'm just feeling sorry for myself and like, what's the point? So to remove that, the likelihood of that kind of noisy data creeping in, I just collect more data. Basically, I weigh myself every single day, and by weighing myself every single day, I can trajectorize things better. I will see occasionally those pops up, but I will generally see a trend down. So that I know, okay, I went up this morning, but I went up this morning because I ate late last night. I ate until 9:30 last night when I didn't do that on most other days. So it's the Withings scale, as I mentioned, also from a body fat perspective, is not super accurate. Like it was still telling me I was 18% when people visually would clock me as 10%, and in the gym machine, I would be around 5%. So, obviously 5% is not accurate either, but 18% is absolutely not accurate. And Dexascan had me at 15% or 15.7, I think, at exactly the same time. So there you go. Again, it's, I wouldn't even say the body fat measurements on a home scale are a particularly good directionally necessarily, because unless you have a better scale that lets you have handles as well, it's really only running through the lower half of your body, and you could look very different from a body fat composition perspective on your lower half than you do top half. So anyhow, but the real plus of a smart scale at home is that daily tracking and the easy logging and integration with an app, so you just have those values there for you to look back at anytime. I wouldn't call this next one necessarily part of my stack, but I'm going to cover it anyways. At the gym I go to, there is a body composition measuring device called Evolt. That's the trade name of it. It has very flattering readings, as I just mentioned. It had me at about 5%. Actually, I think it might have said under 5%. I will put a screen grab up here to show you what it said at the same time as I was 15% on the Dexascan and 18% on my home scale. So, super flattering. But again, good data. It also put me at like a bio age of 40, which is nearly 10 full years younger than what I am. So I'll take it. What a flattering machine. It's no fluke, it's in gyms. So if that's something that is available to you, that might be your best, at least directional measure of body fat. If you're looking for something like that and you don't have access to Dexascan, because Dexascan is anywhere from $150 to $250, $150 to $250. So I usually only do those every 6 months at most. because what's going to change also in less than 6 months. But Evolt is a good option for those of you that are looking for something just above a home scale in terms of accuracy, but also very flattering. Okay, next on our list, everyone needs something for calorie and macro tracking. And obviously there are tons of different apps for this. I used to use MyFitnessPal for this purpose, and they changed, I'm not sure when, I think it was about a year ago, so that their free version, I don't think does barcode scanning anymore. At least it didn't when I checked it out. And I've recently went on a little subscription purge in my life because, like all of us, I've acquired way too many subscriptions, and I just really resent them now. They're just the scourge of the tech industry. If you're not constantly innovating your product offering, why am I paying a subscription for it? So I looked for an option that didn't have a subscription to access barcode scanning. If you're unsure of what I mean by barcode scanning, it means that any food that has a barcode on it, which admittedly are probably not the best foods, but I can include milk and other stuff like that. So it's not all bad, but you can take the app and you can scan that barcode and it'll give you the caloric and macro breakdown of that particular food. And so that makes tracking way easier. The app I use now is called Carb Manager, Carb, C-A-R-B, Manager, if I can spell. So Carb Manager, free scanning barcodes, and doesn't seem to have any limits in terms of what I can enter. Stores custom foods. So I use a meal delivery service for at least one of my meals every single day, and I can enter in those meals from a macro perspective and save them, because often I have the same meal over and over again. And so it's extremely easy, and obviously it's storing meals that I've eaten most frequently, which I eat the same thing most of the time. You're sensing a pattern here. And so I'm easily able to just enter those in every single day and then just really game how close I get to that limit all the time. On my last cut, I spent about 2.5 months on 1,800 calories a day, about 130 grams of carbs and 180 grams of protein and 70 grams, I think, of fat. And so it's obviously adding all those up, individually for me, tracking it all. And it just makes it extremely easy to stick to a diet. I obviously really only pay attention to when I'm cutting to the overall calories and protein, really protein first and then calories. And then I don't really care about the other macros. There are going to be some days where I really want to overeat carbs at the expense of fat, really all days if I could. But in that case, I'm okay sparing some fat for that carb overconsumption. But it's a fantastic tool. It will occasionally ask you to upgrade as your sort of penance for not paying their subscription fee, but that's much better than the MyFitnessPal annual subscription, which I think it could be as much as $50 or $60 a year, I believe. I'm not sure. Maybe it's even more. It was bought out, I want to say by Reebok years ago or somebody, or Nike. And obviously they're about maximizing their profits now, and I'm not interested. And I don't need recipes and all sorts of other bullshit. So really, if you're just looking for a simple, free calorie and macro tracker, that's the one. And this is hardly a tech tool, although I know that there are sort of more techie versions of this, but a food scale. You're gonna need a food scale. There are food scales now. My middle son showed me one on Amazon where you place a food on it and it'll sort of pair with an app, and you can tell it what that food is, and it'll give you the exact macros for that particular food at that weight, which is interesting. But with the Carb Manager app, or really with any of these macro tracking apps, you can basically do the same thing. All you really need is the weight. But they're just, they're so small. I keep it in the cupboard right by the glasses in the kitchen, and I can just whip it out. Whatever I'm doing, like ground turkey, I package up extra lean ground turkey into packages of 500 grams each. So, I can just grab it out of the fridge at 500 grams, fry up a couple days worth of it. And then I know, like, if I'm eating half of this, that's 250 grams, that is 8 ounces, and that equals X amount of protein. So that food scale is it's absolutely essential. So it doesn't need to be those app connected food scales. But when you are at the beginning of your journey with regard to macro tracking and calorie counting and all that kind of stuff, you will be absolutely horrified by how little food equals how much calories. Basically, the caloric density of foods is something I didn't understand at the beginning, and most people still don't understand, at least most casual people that aren't really nerdy into this stuff. I remember when I first like years ago started using, back then it was MyFitnessPal, and I started using it to track what I was eating, and I had a morning bowl of oatmeal because I was, going to be on a health kick. So I thought, let's have my bowl of oatmeal, and I put, the stuff I would put, I can't even remember what it would have been, maybe some nuts and maybe a small amount of syrup or brown sugar and something else. But I mean, it was a decent sized bowl, but I didn't think it was horrendous. And when I then added up everything, first I ate it. Here's the problem. I did things the wrong way around. First I ate it, and then afterwards I added up all the calories, and I was horrified to discover that it was 1,000 calories I just had in my morning bowl of oatmeal. So you cannot understate how important food scales are. And, calorie counting apps, basically, they go hand in hand, obviously, for you to get a real handle on how much you're eating and what it consists of. Okay, and I promised one game changer reveal, and here it is. So you've probably noticed that I use a heck of a lot of data in my tech stack, my over 40 tech stack here. As a result, I've got just reams and reams, now years full of logs of sleep tracking, Dexascans, diet logs, weight logs, you name it. Blood labs, obviously, that too, years of blood labs. And so I've just got, at a certain point, it just got unwieldy. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I had, obviously I've got doctors, so I can ask them questions too, but they don't know everything about me. So wouldn't it be great if I had someone or something I could ask questions to that knew all my history? And I could ask it for since June of last year, how much body fat have I lost? Or since 2 years ago, how much new lean muscle mass have I accrued? Or what was the date when my ALT levels spiked? Or something like that, basically, you name it. Crazy questions that I can't even remember of myself. And so that's where ChatGPT has come in. What I did is I took all that data and I put it arranged in nice little Google Drive folders, and then trained a GPT in ChatGPT on that data. So if you're unfamiliar with ChatGPT, which no one is at this point, it's a large language model, it's generative AI, it's, basically what's taking over the world. There are obviously tons of other alternatives to ChatGPT at this point. I also use Claude for some things. I've used Gemini as well, but ChatGPT still works pretty darn well, and you can create your own little GPT, which is like your own little agent, and you can give it a bunch of resources that it now knows about you. And that's what I did with all of my health and fitness logs. And I'm sure all that information is being sold abroad for very little money, but that's just, I guess, a risk I'm willing to take for this level of convenience. So I had given it access to exported health data, and now I can ask it all those questions, and it helps me interpret all that data from multiple sources and figure out, what's happening in my fitness journey. Like I said, just the other day, I had asked it for a year-over-year analysis of my Dexascan results from last year to this year, because I was curious, actually it was 2 years ago. The last time I had done a cut was a couple years ago. I cut way too deep, but basically I cut down to, I think I was somewhere in the 160s, probably around 165 pounds by the time I hit my little photo shoot. And I looked flat and skinny. I didn't want to do that again this time. So I cut down this time to 175. And that was probably too much too, because when I had consulted ChatGPT on what my Dexascan results were at the end of my cut, a couple years ago versus what they were at the end of this cut, ChatGPT told me that I had about 3 point something worth of lean muscle mass gain in that time period. So about, let's call it 7 pounds of lean muscle mass gained in the last 2 years. So, add some body fat onto that, you're almost around 10 pounds. So the conclusion is I probably relatively cut down to about the same level, 165 pounds versus 175 pounds. I just happen to have more muscle on me. So, I don't know if that's, overall, I guess it's a good thing that I had more muscle on me. That's great. But I probably still cut down a little bit too much. I still wasn't super happy with my photos, which maybe is a body dysmorphia issue, but who's to say? But it's still incredibly handy. I was walking and I was just able to ask ChatGPT right then, and it already had all that information in its memory. I don't even have to go and look through charts anymore. It just knows this about me, and I'm sure that horrifies some people, but I love it. So I hope this has been helpful. I know for me, technology has been a powerful ally in my health journey, and these tools have been game changers for me for tracking and motivation and getting and improving my results. But, start small. pick one or two of these that resonate with you and give them a shot. I mean, if you're not used to using tech extensively, if you're one of those people that still use a notebook to track their workouts in the gym, that's okay too. Whatever works for you. I don't want to criticize my good friend Lee does that in the gym, and he's much bigger than I am. So far be it for me to criticize, but pick one or two of these tools and give them a shot and build habits around gradually incorporating them into your routine, and then just have fun every once in a while, looking back, if you're consistent with this, figuring out how things have changed. This will deliver regular insights into your progress, and I think you'll be surprised. Often I don't think anything has changed, and it's not until I do things like ask ChatGPT about my Dexascan results over the last couple of years that I realize, yeah, no, I actually have gained some lean muscle mass. So by tracking these things and having easy, ready access to them, even if sometimes the photos don't match up with what you think is happening in your head, the data will tell you the truth. So remember, tools can support you, but your effort is what really drives change. And technology every day is just making health optimization more and more accessible. So now it's your turn. Explore, experiment, and find what works for you. So what health tech are you using? Drop me a comment below and let's discuss. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content on optimizing your health and fitness after 40. Thanks, guys.